Welcome to Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Ben Durant, and beside me is...
Brian Kazowski. How's it going, Ben?
Going great. And we have Talking Backwards podcast with us today. How you doing, guys?
Hey, great. Thank you.
So can you guys introduce yourself?
Certainly. I'm Dave Jackson. I am one of the hosts that has casually watched Twin Peaks through.
And I am Patrick Mahan. I think maybe more known to our listeners as the super fan who watches nothing but Twin Peaks.
And Tyler couldn't join us right now, but we'll insert him throughout the show, and so he'll still be a part of this. And here are the unseen players.
Hi there. This is Blythe Horman, and I'll be playing the narrator.
Hi, this is Caitlin, and I'll be playing Shelly and Annie.
Hi, this is Diana Stavroulakis, and I'm playing the narrator and Donna.
This is Chris Mathews. I'm playing the roles of Tim Pinkle and Dr. Hayward.
Hi, my name is Aaron Cohen, and I'm going to be playing John Wheeler.
Hi, it's Bill Abelson. I'm reading Tom and the mayor of Twin Peaks for the past half-century, Dwayne Milford.
Hi, I'm Robin Lynn Norris, and I'm playing Norma Jennings and Annie Blackburn.
Hi, I'm Katie Roarty, and I'll be reading for Shelly Johnson.
Hi, this is Bob Klier. I'll be reading parts for Cooper, Dick Tremayne, and Windom Earl.
I'm Becky Plant, and I'll be playing Bobby and the narrator.
Hey, this is John Salinas, and on this episode, I'm doing some narration.
Hey, this is Julia, and I'm playing Audrey.
Hi, this is Joyce Picker, and once again, I am playing Lucy and Nadine.
Hi, this is Yvette, and I'll be playing the role of Lana.
Hi, my name is Maya Adkins, and I'll be playing the narrator.
Hello, I'm Peter Holland, and I will be playing Cooper.
Hi, this is Marcel Fraser, and I'm going to be playing Sheriff Truman.
Hello, my name is Detective Andy Brennan, and I'll be playing Andy Bentley on it. Oh, wait, that's not right.
So, guys, before we get into episode 27, which some people call The Path to the Black Lodge, and episode 28, Miss Twin Peaks, I really want to get to know you guys. I think, first I want to say, I love your podcast. I love your Patreon. I think you guys are so funny, and I'm really impressed. I think both Brian and I have some video production background, and I'm so impressed with the video production style that you guys bring to it. Your opening, and recently you guys did stuff with Tyler in the Woods and the Vortex, and you guys just have a great creative talent. I think you guys are really something else.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. A lot of our production value is Tyler. He's really the glue in a lot of ways, as far as being part of our whole appeal, which is that he has not seen Twin Peaks before, and he was watching it with us in real time, episode per episode. But he's also the man behind the scenes making all of the stuff look good. Wow. Patrick does a lot of the video editing, but when it comes to like really making things pop and really making the Patreon valuable and things like that, all of that is Tyler's handiwork.
Yeah, we wouldn't be or look as good, I should say, without. But like since we've gotten into doing the video podcast without Tyler, I mean, he sets up the cameras, he sets up the microphone, and then we kind of handle everything, past that. But it's so funny because he is the newbie, but we wouldn't be doing what we're doing really without him at all.
Brian didn't ever watch Twin Peaks, but he had the background in podcasts. So it's like, Brian, you'd be perfect for this because
yeah.
I've seen your videos, and so you guys are together. So I imagine you guys don't live that far away from each other, and I'm so curious how you guys got started in doing this podcast.
Well, Tyler and I live about 20 minutes away from each other, but Patrick actually lives in a different state, and every now and then we'll either have him commute down here to do an round table session, or Tyler and I will pack up and go to him, schedules permitting. And we've been doing a lot of stuff remotely as well. It's definitely a different energy being together versus having to record separately, like via Zoom or Meet, however you have it. But we find a way to make it work. We'll pack 3 or 4 episodes into a day and just really just get the most out of the time that we are able to spend actually together.
Like when we were getting into season 2, we got to, the episode where it's the big killer reveal. And that was actually like maybe even up to like Arbitrary Law, like episode 9 of season 2. That was the last thing we did right before pandemic. So then we just couldn't I was glad we got those episodes in together, because then we ended up doing the rest of season 2 and, some things after that all remotely. So I was really glad with the timing of that. I would have loved to have done them all together in person, but somehow that just that was the way that worked out. And then, we've had to be very careful, of course, the last few months when we do get together and record. So it's been challenging, but fun. John Bernardi always says up to us from the 25 Years Later site, he's always like, yeah, you guys started this for fun, but look at you now, or whatever. It's just something like that. He always just will point out, oh, you guys started for fun. So it's like, yeah, now we're just, loving every minute of this. So,
and you guys seem like you guys have been friends for years, because you seem to have a good comedic timing. Like there's something where somebody will say something, then Tyler will respond funny, and
Dave and I have been friends for probably 20 years, and Tyler about the same. I've been friends with Tyler for 16 years, and I think I'm the mutual connection between Dave and Tyler. I'm not exactly sure when they met exactly, but yeah, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure Tyler and I are friends.
Yeah, that's true. I should have pointed that out. As soon as the microphones are turned off, it's just fisticuffs.
So Tyler, if you're listening, ball's in your court.
So let's begin. So we've got episode 27. Patrick, what interests you about this episode?
It's funny. This is the first time I've watched this since we recorded this episode about a year ago. So the timing was really interesting, kind of going back and revisiting this. One of the things that stood out to me the most about the path to the Black Lodge was the ending of it. I thought the ending of this episode was so cool, with all the shots of the empty locations leading up to the reveal of Bob's arm hanging out at Glastonbury Grove. I thought that was so well done, and just sort of gave you that sense of dread of what's to come. Like the first time I saw that episode, I was just like, man, where's this going? Because you get that shot of the Red Room. Yeah. You don't see it that often. You don't realize Fire Walk with Me in the Return, because you get much more Red Room stuff, but you don't get a whole lot of it, and it's in small doses, and in the original series. So getting that shot of it again, being like, oh, this is maybe a real place. I don't know. I think it's real. I think that's really cool. But yeah, they're telling you, the end is near. And the finale, you're reaching that end game, the finish line of season 2. For whatever reason, it's just that ending is so cool to me. And when I think about this episode, Path to the Black Lodge, I think of seeing a tease of the Black Lodge.
Yeah.
And Pete seeing Josie in the wood. Josie, I see your face.
Roadhouse Day. Decorations for the Miss Twin Peaks contest are being put up. A poster celebrating Norma as a past queen is leaning against the podium. Shelly Johnson and Bobby Briggs rehearse on stage.
Shell, I know I haven't been paying the right kind of attention to you lately, but when I saw that old guy kissing you, something snapped. It's when I realized what I had or something. And I want to dedicate my time to that.
Sounds great to me.
So let's try to get through the rest. And then we can discuss it together.
Shelly peeks at her speech, sighs, and continues her recitation.
Yes, I believe there's so many beautiful things in the world that should be admired and we should be thankful for. For example, Detroit automakers reported a record year of sales for sports cars. I don't know, Bobby.
What's wrong now?
Well, for one thing, nowhere in this entire speech do we mention ecology or forests or anything.
Bobby looks at the speech.
I don't know where I'd put it. The speech is so damn tight as it is.
But it's supposed to be about that.
Shell, you're gonna be wonderful. You'll win in a walk. And then we are off. Fade out on Twin Peaks. Fade up on Hollywood Insider Games. Sunset Strip. Easy street, baby. Just like you always wanted. Maybe a new hairdo. Or some signature makeup we got to mesmerize.
Shelly sighs. Apology or not, he's hopeless.
That's great.
In the show, they did have Bobby and Shelly talking about her. I think it was at the Double R Diner and stuff like that. So this was filmed, and I think it's in one of the Blu-ray there that they did do at the Roadhouse.
Yeah, I remember seeing this. I must have just seen it maybe once. And as I was reading that, I was like, some of this sounds familiar. And I was going to say, yeah, weren't they at the Roadhouse doing some of this? It's funny just thinking back to everyone in these episodes, thinking about their speeches and trying to make it about the forest and the pine weasel and whatnot.
It's so amazing. The day before the Miss Twin Peaks, Ben Horn just comes on. It's like, let's make it about the environment, and it's like, oh sure, we have one day before the event. Let's do that.
Yeah. Honestly, that sounds like any event that's ever been thrown in history. It's like,
True.
you know, it'd be great. This last minute change. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Oh. Dave, what interests you about this episode?
Oh, I'm just a really big fan of giant papier-mâché chess piece costumes.
Who isn't, though?
I mean, obviously I do love that. But with that at the top, just kind of sets the stage for the next two episodes where we really get to see Windom Earle's villainy kind of come into its own. Like he's finally showing his teeth. And I really like this like sleeper hit villain that is one of those things you kind of hear about. It's, you know, breadcrumbed up to this point, but you haven't understood what kind of threat he really is, because you meet him and he seems, you know, very confident and strong. And then the next time you see him, he's jumping around in a nightie, meowing like a cat man.
Yeah, like, who is this man?
I was waiting to be intimidated, and this was the episode where we finally get a look at this man being evil and being a problem. And just, you know, learning kind of his methodology, learning that this whole thing might not be directly about Cooper. It's just a very good gate opening to the walkway that is the next few steps. And it's that pull that gets me so much about this episode.
Black Lake Airport, day. Near sunset. A taxi, sporting the sign Tim and Tom's Taxidermy and bearing a huge set of antlers on its roof, rolls up to the lone jet on the runway. A voice is heard inside the taxi.
Straight. Hold. Steady. Oh, stop.
The taxi jerks to a stop in front of the jet. A piece of luggage falls to the runway, followed by Wheeler, who pulls himself to safety from the back seat where Tim Pinkle sits. His blind brother, Tom, sits behind the wheel in the front seat. Wheeler stares at the blind man. Tim explains his brother.
He loves to stuff and he loves to drive. Otherwise, he sleeps.
Well, I am very glad to have the opportunity to be thankful for arriving here.
The pleasure is half mine.
Tim points to the antlers on the hood.
Remember, we'll stuff anything.
Right.
Tom shouts to Wheeler as he moves towards the jet.
Welcome to Twin Peaks.
The taxi pulls away under the direction of Tim's voice.
Right. Easy. Oh, right again. Straight.
Wow.
That was... I'm glad that was cut.
Yeah, I wonder why that was cut.
I like the wackiness of it. There is a whole history, and like our friends Stephen Miller from Twin Peaks blog kind of did do a post about this, a blog post about Tim and Tom's taxidermy. They're briefly mentioned in season 1 by Pete Martell. And
they stuffed his fish.
Yeah, the fish.
Well, the sizes and everything.
In preparing for the show, what I didn't realize, Tim Pinkle, he's part of the whole fashion show. He brings in the weasel stuff, and most likely that's probably his donation from his own service. But I never connected it. They probably were tying that in. When they were writing these scripts, they would have had more Tim and Tom.
Yeah, without this scene, you don't see Tim and Tom proper. He's just another Tim.
Yeah.
Which is just par for the course for the series, naming people the same thing across the board in detached ways. But he's not detached, and without this scene, you don't know that.
Yeah, you don't know that he's the Tim and Tom's task.
Yeah. True. Just now I put that together.
Right.
So who's Tom?
Right.
You know who Tom is. That's the mystery of the show for me now.
Who is Tom?
Dave, that is such a good point, because how many bombs are there on the show? And
yeah, it's just crazy, the loose-handedness with the naming conventions. And that's been a huge point of contention with us on the show, is just the irresponsibility of the naming. But it's also part of the red herrings and the guessing games, and where are the connections? How do you make them? I honestly wish this scene was in. If not for realizing he was one half of Tim and Tom's taxidermy.
Yeah.
For the visual of somebody in the back seat guiding a blind man to drive a taxi.
Yeah.
I would love that.
And it appears that they did film this scene, and it wasn't a long scene. It's like a 1 minute long, but still, I guess they decided to cut it. So why don't we share Tyler what he has to say about this episode?
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. It's Tyler Mullins here from Talking Backwards podcast, here to share some thoughts about episode 27 of Twin Peaks, The Path to the Black Lodge. This episode is nuts, mostly because I am hot off the heels of finishing The Return. So it was quite jarring to go from that back to the end of the original run, and it just blew my mind how quirky this show is. I never really thought about it because the show is weird and quirky, but when you watch The Return and come back to this, you're like, this show is out of control. It seems like maybe they already knew it was canceled and just went all out and did whatever the hell they wanted. Starting with the pawn in the gazebo and the whole crew who is trying to remove this thing is just insane. It's the craziest background action that I feel like ever happens in this show. A couple of things that stood out to me in this episode: the video Briggs shows Coop and Harry of Windom Earle when he was on Project Blue Book talking about Dugpas and the Black Lodge, which when I originally saw this had no meaning, but now, of course, having seen The Return, it really feels like this ties in so well with The Return and has so much to do with what goes on that it's crazy that they almost just kind of gloss over this little storyline. And then there's so many things in this episode that I feel like have no business being here because, of course, they don't get answered or have any attention brought to them at any point. Like all the shaking hands, who is this crazy lady eating pie, having this seizure of sorts. But then Coop has it, Pete has it. Like, what's going on? I need to know about this. And then the whole thing with Catherine and Andrew and the puzzle box. This box bugs me so much. I know it did the first time I watched it, and we talked about it in our podcast that covered this episode. Like, what is this sexual attraction that Catherine has to this metal box? And I don't remember if this comes back into play or not, but was this like an early prototype of the metal rod that they play around with in The Return? Like, I don't know. What the hell? Then we have all this bullshit with Billy Zane and my favorite character, who has always been my favorite character, Audrey. I can't believe she would run up to this asshole and be like, make love on me, give me your seed, whatever. So dumb. Meanwhile, Pete's just standing there, totally okay with the fact that he's basically a pimp at this point. And this leads me to believe that the asshole formerly known as Ricky Horn could very well be John Justice Wheeler's kid. Even though it is stated that Boop is his father, I 100% believe that John Justice Wheeler would spawn a child like that. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but like the whole thing with Windom and Briggs and the, I guess, truth serum, it just seems like a lot of filler. Even him ambushing him in the horse costume. Like, this show is nuts. And it almost makes me yearn for stuff like this to have happened in The Return. And it never did. It is just absolutely bonkers. Overall, this episode was just a lot of fun to go back and watch, especially after finishing The Return. It was just this lighthearted, fun episode, and I'm able to look at it through a new lens, which I've been wanting to do for the whole time I've been watching this show, especially since the asshole other 2/3 of talking backwards made me wait to watch everything at the slowest pace possible. But now it's fair game and I can watch everything. This episode is just a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for having us on. Sorry I couldn't be there, but these are my thoughts, and I don't care what anybody else thinks.
Oh, I think a lot, Tyler. I got beef with Tyler.
Bravo, man.
Tyler, he did the handshake. He says that nothing, I mean, and you can still argue that nothing came of the handshaking, but, you know, Gordon Cole's hand shakes in The Return.
Cat on a hot tin roof.
Yeah, cat on a hot tin roof. So
Yeah.
it's not for nothing. I had a feeling he was going to bring up something about John Justice Wheeler because he hates Billy Zane. We always bring up the Zane plane where Audrey
Zane plane?
and Billy Zane.
The worst dialogue ever. So cringy. I was just kind of like, Wow, that's bad. But did you guys notice? Because I watched it on the Blu-ray.
Mhm.
I said to Ben when we first watched, I said, Billy Zane, that's glued on. His hair is glued on. And Ben's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I can see the glue line on my TV. So I Googled it. Come to find out, Billy Zane was losing his hair, and Twin Peaks was like one of the first shows or the first things he had to do where his head was completely shaved, and that hair is fake. But I could next time you watch it, you see the glue line. And
they could get away with so much of that kind of stuff back then too, because no one was thinking about HD.
Exactly.
Like, you could get on small TV, you could get away. Because I want to bring up too, go back to the ending of this episode when Bob's arm comes out of from
behind the tree,
Glastonbury Glove. Yeah. You only see his arm, but then when it cuts to that closer shot, you can see him standing there, and the spotlight just comes off of him, and I'm wondering, like, is he supposed to be seen on the I'm like, I feel like you're still just supposed to see his arm, but like maybe with just the way TVs back then, you weren't really supposed to see him standing there, because it's just like he's just standing still, but you can clearly see his whole body, and I almost wonder if that was supposed to be seen.
So if nobody's ever heard of Tyler before, that was our introduction to him.
He's a trip. Hey, nobody made him do this. He always likes to say that. No, we were not making him, because honestly, one of the hooks, for at least from what I've gathered from some of the people who have listened to our show, is that second or third episode, however you look at Twin Peaks, when you get the first Red Room scene, he wasn't so sure about it. I think people were like, oh, well, I want to hear what he's going to think of everything else.
Yeah.
So Tyler's the star. He won't admit it. He's the star of this production.
When we first started with Brian was like, this is a soap opera. And I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hang on to this show. And then, I mean, was it the Red Room dream sequence that had you, Brian? Or?
Oh, of course. That was like, I'm fully in. But like in the beginning, I mean, I liked the characters, but it was very like, I guess your mind is today TV, and then you go back and you're like, this is a little, they're acting weird. I don't know what it is, kind of like a nighttime soap opera feel in the beginning there.
Yeah, I mean, I say it a lot. I think one of the things that attracted me to the show was how well it blends so many genres, just all across the board. It hits really every check mark for me. Even with the return, like it was just so unpredictable. I was just like, it just felt like so many different things. Even concerts, you got performances at the end. Really, it checked all the boxes.
So why don't we move on to the next episode 28, Miss Twin Peaks. When I first saw this in 1991, this was part of the Monday night of the week 2-hour movie. The finale and stuff happened in June. And so it's weird because, like, in my mind, it's kind of, it belongs with episode 29 because I saw it originally that way. But it is its own episode. It's its own director. And I bet you guys probably had it as its own episode. It wasn't part of 29, right? I mean, when you guys covered this episode?
Separate, yeah.
Right, yeah, we did everything in pieces like that, yeah.
Which makes sense, but because I watched it originally that way, I almost think of it as a 2-hour movie finishing off season 2. But totally,
that's how I look at season 3 with 17 and 18 airing the same night. Yeah.
So Patrick, what interests you about this episode?
3 words: contortionistic jazz erotica.
Nice. Yes.
No, again, just, I hate to say it twice, but just the end, the pageant, the strobe lights, the hysteria, it's all so good. However, the thing that gives me nightmares most about this episode, probably more than Bob ever has, is Windom Earle dressed up as the log lady. That face, like of him smiling when the strobe lights are going, is just, no. Get it off my face. Get out of here. It's a great episode. It leads right into the finale, episode 29. In this rewatch too, I feel like it was a little predictable Annie was going to win, and that's totally fine. Audrey had such a wonderful speech that stands out. I can't help but thinking, like, maybe another timeline, maybe she won with her speech and maybe she was taken. Like,
Right.
you know, I like to think about stuff like that. Like maybe she went with Windom Earl and they went, you know, to the Black Lodge.
And when you think about it, originally Cooper and Audrey were supposed to get together. That was the original storyline. So maybe it was leading towards her winning Miss Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I could see that. I get the conflict of, you know, putting the nail in that storyline or just being done with, you know, Cooper and Audrey. I totally get that. Can't help but wonder what that would have been like, you know, had she won, had there been something there, had Annie never shown up or come to Twin Peaks. But it's a great episode. I said this in our original episode for this. We do a segment where we each say our damn fine lines of the night. And there's just this line that Andy says at the end that I, for some reason, say all the time. It's just him saying, "It's a map." And I say it. I say it when I open Google Maps. See, it's a map. I don't know why. It's just, for some reason, his delivery, it's just, Harry's so good in the role of Andy that it's just that delivery and just the fact that that's how the episode ends too,
right.
You know, because then you get, you know, here's credits like, wait, what? A map to where? It hooks you. So that stands out. Again, I feel like Tyler, you know, I'm revisiting this the first time since we've just wrapped the return, and it is a little strange, but it's a wonderful episode. I love how well these last few episodes just got things kind of back on track for that original run.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer that, you know, the schedule got shuffled around the way it did. I mean, I know the Gulf War and there's all the stories, you know, how they reshuffled nights and stuff, but it's a bummer that everyone saw these last few episodes. It's good stuff.
Double R Diner, day. Over by the kitchen, Shelly and Annie are sorting silverware when they're joined by Norma, who carries over a tray of freshly baked pies.
Here's our contribution to the Miss Twin Peaks Gala Buffet, and I fully expect to see one of you up there tonight in the winner's circle.
Dream on, Norma.
Don't sell yourself short, kid. This is one of the biggest days of the year for us, and we need somebody up there who deserves that title. Especially this year.
Laura Palmer.
A day of healing and coming together.
We could use more than a day. Norma, is it true they're going to honor you tonight? 20th anniversary of when you won?
Hush.
If you entered, you could win today.
Listen to her working on the judge already.
Since you brought it up.
Who are you going to vote for?
Shelly and Annie put an arm around each other and present a united front.
Maybe they'll let you split your vote.
We have a customer.
Dale Cooper entering the diner. It's clear whose customer he is. To Shelly's intrigued glance, Annie walks over toward the counter.
Looks like a staff meeting of the Double R Brain Trust.
We are trying to decide who's going to win tonight.
No question about it. You are.
You're not exactly objective.
I am completely objective.
I think you're not as objective as you think you are.
Perhaps that's why it seems so important to me that we kiss.
You impetuous boy. We have an audience.
I know this violates multiple laws of physics, but at this moment, Annie, and I mean this quite literally, you are the only person in the room.
Annie beams. They lean across the counter to kiss. Shelly and Norma look on, smile, look away.
I don't like this.
Then good it was cut.
Way too upfront emotion coming off of Cooper. Like, this is not... I think it was probably cut short because this is just kind of out of character for him to be this
Giddy.
Presumptuous. I mean, he's witty still, but I don't think he would do this around this many people. I think this is more intimate. Like, he would talk like this to Annie, sure, but not with people around, not with an audience, as she puts it. Not a fan of this one.
Out of character. He's definitely out of character.
Yeah.
At the end of the scene, Shelly and Norma are watching, and I thought that was sweet.
I think something for them to witness could have been more subtle, and that would have sold this better. But I do think it was cut just because it's so heavy-handed here, and not just like saying, "Oh, you're gonna win again." Like, we know she's gonna win because the story demands it. I think we talked about this on our episode, actually, Patrick, was it seems like Annie just kind of showed up as an uninvited MacGuffin to be the one put in danger when the Cooper-Audrey storyline had to be cut. She's just a square peg in a round hole here that doesn't really fit the universe to me. Like, I do love the character, but she isn't nearly as aware of how weird everyone around her is. as she should be.
She's put there to lead him into the Black Lodge. I mean, that was,
Right.
I always
Right.
felt that was definitely her purpose. And then she fulfilled that purpose.
Yeah, it would have actually been pretty cool to see Cooper go slightly, off routine or a little out of character because he was so smitten with Annie, but something this blatant doesn't work narratively and, as something to put on film. Annie's whole role is obvious and decided, and it doesn't need to be hammered home anymore than it already has been. Like we know this is Cooper's love interest now, and it's already clear what's going to happen. We don't need to hit that nail again.
And Dave, what interests you about this episode?
I mean, it's definitely the pageant. Like anytime there's a scene where you have like different displays of quirks or talents, just watching Kimmy Robertson tear that stage apart was so much fun. The whole Lana scene's really cringy, obviously, but just like watching any time this happens in a series or in a film where you see an individual character going up and putting themselves on display and either really failing or really winning is just so much fun to watch. And I think it was specifically Lucy, who can amazingly dance. Just who saw that coming?
Yeah.
Was just a blast. It's the pageant section is so much fun, and it's such a juxtaposition against all the dark things going on around that. Like it's supposed to be this levity and this fun moment, but there's always that thing in the back of your head that's like, this is where it's going to happen. Like it's not going to be during this act, which is great, but something terrible is going to happen here. So there's that creeping dread, but you do get to have fun for a minute.
Roadhouse, day. A line of Miss Twin Peaks contestants in black dance leotards rehearse the opening number. They include, amongst some faces we do not know, Donna, Shelly, Annie, Lucy, Audrey, Nadine, and Lana. Standing before them, sleeves up, a cigarette bobbing in his mouth, is the impresario and choreographer, the ubiquitous Tim Pinkle. The piano player Trudy jumps back into a show tune, and the girls begin their chorus line dance.
Okay, 1 and 2 and 3.
Pinkle does the moves with them.
Step forward, 1 and over and 2.
The girls continue on their own as Pinkle steps over to a table and takes a large pull off his submarine sandwich. Through his chewing, he speaks.
Let the mood carry you. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and give me just a little more leg. Ooh, now bend forward, like sap in the sapling in the wind. A little further. Very good. Hold it for me. Then up and out.
The song ends. Audrey eyes their trainer warily.
You girls will need a lot of work. But if you stay with it, I think I can make dancers out of you. Especially you, Miss Horn.
What kind of dance was this, Mr. Pinkle?
A nature dance, my little friend. A celebration.
What are we celebrating when you have us all bending over?
Don't question the vision of your choreographer. You're but a petal on the rose.
Donna says to Shelly.
Later, it'll be the pistils and the stamens.
Pistols and what?
Don't ask.
We're on stage at last. That's all that matters.
This is the weirdest thing I have ever seen.
I think it's just the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Once more with feeling, girls. I only have 3 things to say. Energy, energy, energy.
The 3 judges, Norma, Tremayne, and Milford, sit watching and discussing.
If talent's to be any part of our deliberations, we'd best close our eyes until Pinky's done wreaking havoc.
I love a chorus line.
If we can focus here for a second, I have to get back to the diner.
Norma gets back to the printed agenda of their discussion.
What qualities do we think best exemplify Miss Twin Peaks?
Beauty and power. That's how I like them.
Poise and, God help us, sophistication and breeding.
Well, I think a major factor should be originality.
Wouldn't that fall under talent?
Always nice when it does.
Personally, I've always been big on style.
That should be enough to work with. I'll make up the score sheets this afternoon. I've really got to go.
Terrific.
She goes. Milford eyes Tremayne. Business time.
Score sheets, more sheets. We're set on this, aren't we, Dick?
Set on...
She looks lovely today, doesn't she?
If looks could kill... Sorry, insensitive of me.
She'd make a great Miss Twin Peaks.
Wouldn't she just? But my vote is, of course, something I hold sacred and will exercise with the greatest care and consideration, as you well know, being a man who's been charged with the awesome responsibility of running this town.
All right. I can give you 300, but not a penny more.
Lana, as if on cue and quite possibly so, comes over. Milford signals her over Tremayne's shoulder.
Hello, Dick. We're on break.
Hi, Lana.
Do you think you could help me find something in the storage room?
The storage room?
We are missing a very important prop.
The mayor signals his approval to Lana.
There is a one little interesting detail here that I don't remember from the show itself. It's right after Pinkle has stopped the first sort of, we'll call it training session, with quotes. And he says, you girls will need a lot of work. And then in parentheses, belch. But if you stay with it, I can make dancers out of you. Is it suggested that he is drunk for this whole thing? Because otherwise, why would you put that there? Just right. The girls will need a lot of work. like he's already despicable, so we don't need anything to tell us that he is, other than this would be to say he's terrible, yes, but he's also plastered.
And I think in the show, Donna and Shelly are in the background, and I think they're laughing and fooling around, but it seems almost like out of character. Like I almost feel like the actors are not really into it.
And smoking, right?
Yeah, like
smoking during this dance rehearsal.
Yeah,
they're like kids in school, and
I
liken that to, so Shelly dropped out of school, so she didn't get to have a lot of classmate interaction, like laughing at the teacher and kind of elbowing each other. This is kind of her last chance to get that kind of thing in here.
But also, were there no rules to how old you were to have to be in this pageant? Because you've got everyone from Nadine and
Nadine too,
Lucy down to, I mean, I get Nadine being back in high school, but Lucy too. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. I guess there's no age restrictions. Not that I mean, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just something that stood out even on this rewatch. I was just like, I guess anyone could be in this. This isn't just high school related.
Right.
This is the town pageant.
It is, yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and in the Double R, Shelly says, Norma, you could always enter in again, and you win because it's been 20 years since you won last time. So it does seem like anybody could. And, you know, it was John Thorne back in the day of Wrapped in Plastic magazine that figured out that the pageant actually happens on Easter. So the year is 1989 of Twin Peaks, and he did the math of when... Because it's every day is one episode except for those 3 days after Leland's passing. The pageant fell on Easter. And it's interesting, in the script, it was no reason to do an unseen scene for this, but in the script, Doc Hayward announces it and says, I hope everybody had a great holiday. So it does seem like the writers were aware that it was Easter, and, you know, they threw in that line, and then it was cut from the show.
Well, that was probably cut because that would mean that somebody had awareness of what the date was in the show at any point.
Yeah.
Because if you drop something like that, that destroys the already destroyed timeline, which is non-existent.
Exactly.
So Tyler has one more thing he's got to say about this episode, and I thought we'd share that.
Oh boy,
can't wait.
What bus are we getting thrown under now?
Hello, it's me again, Tyler Mullins from the Talking Backwards podcast, here to share my thoughts about Twin Peaks episode 28. Miss Twin Peaks. This is a good episode. I remember enjoying this a lot the first time I saw it. Again, another crazy episode with the whole pageant, everything going on with Windom, Leo. I said it about the last episode. This episode is just, it's just funny and crazy and great. The only downfall of this episode probably is Dick Tremayne in the closet. I remember having an issue with this scene. Every time the light turns on and off, you can see where they cut the scene together. And for some reason, it just bothered me. This episode also had the cage of spiders hanging above Leo's head, which is the perfect inspiration for the spin-off Buddy Cop series that I still have my fingers crossed for, 10 Legs and a Ponytail. There was also that scene of Ed and Norma and Nadine and Mike in, I guess, a couples counseling weird thing, but she puts on this terrible presentation. It was weird. I still don't understand it. I don't think anything got solved from that. But we also see Major Briggs return to safety, which is a huge plus, even though they're trying to talk to him and Andy's still standing there looking at this damn map, which again, this would have been a good time for Hawk to break out that map from the return. I feel like it would have been super helpful. And I stand corrected on my comments of the previous episode about the metal box that Catherine absolutely wanted to do terrible things to. It does come back into play because within the metal box is a key. And where there's a key, there's a lock. Then there's all this bullshit drama with Donna and the fact that Ben Horn's her dad and nobody cares and it doesn't even matter. It's so dumb. But I'll skip ahead straight to one of the greatest characters, Logman, which Bobby is really, I guess, confused about. I remember having a discussion about how this could be interpreted via Bobby's eyes, whether it's one of Log Lady's relatives or did Log Lady teleport over to this location. He was just confused, and it was just really funny to watch. I won't bore you with the details of the pageant itself or how I feel about it, or pageants in general, or even the fact that it's D-Day and we find out who the father is, because what happens at the end is what really sold this episode for me, with all the strobe lighting, the smoke machines, the small explosive that I'm pretty sure is smaller than the remote that Windom has in his hands. This scene was amazing. I loved it so much, and it really just sold the whole episode for me. And even though Annie won the pageant and Windom takes her, it's all just totally secondary to the cinematography that's happening right now. And then once the smoke clears, Andy out of nowhere just shows up and tells Cooper, "It's a map." Well, yeah, no shit, Andy. Anyway, this is a great episode. Just a lot of stuff going on. It's really fun. Takes us right up to the ending of the original run of the series. It just bums me out that so much of the things that have happened in these past two episodes don't really matter or come back into play ever. So yeah, that's all I have to say about episode 28, Miss Twin Peaks. Just a good time. Again, sorry I'm not there to talk about this in person, but I am sure y'all are having a great time without me.
We absolutely are, Tyler. Hey, you didn't throw us under the bus that time.
Thankfully.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, he brings up a lot of good points about stuff like Nadine's slideshow is so ridiculous, but so necessary. I don't know that this episode would have been quite the same without that moment of just absolute confusion.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Roadhouse stage, night. Cooper moves carefully through the crowd, eyes right and left. Then he pauses, looks up, and spots a catwalk overhead. He pauses to wonder, then turns his eyes back to the stage, Annie giving her speech.
And to illustrate my point, I'd like to read these words from Chief Seattle, leader of the Suamish tribe. Your dead are soon forgotten and never return. Our dead never forget the beautiful world that gave them being. They still love its verdant valleys, its murmuring rivers, its magnificent mountains, sequestered vales and verdant-lined lakes and bay, and even yearn in tender, fond affection over the lonely-hearted living, and often return from the happy hunting ground to visit, guide, console, and comfort them.
A hush has fallen over the crowd. She folds up her paper. Windom Earle, now undisguised, darts along the catwalk overhead. He attaches another device to a sandbag line, sets the timer. That's when Annie's voice catches his attention from below. Earle pauses, peers down at her with rapt expression.
Why have we all lost touch with this beauty? We tell ourselves the world is not alive so that we won't feel its pain, but instead we feel it all the more. Maybe saving a forest starts with preserving the little feelings that die inside us every day, those parts of ourselves we deny. Because if that interior land is not honored, then neither will we honor the land we walk. Thank you very much.
She walks off to a salvo of applause. Cooper, who has been conferring with a deputy, pausing to watch her exit with evident emotion. Once the ballots are tallied, the girls stand in a line back near the curtain as Doc Hayward speaks into the microphone.
It's time to make the announcement. The winner of the contest in our new Miss Twin Peaks is Annie Blackburn.
Congratulatory screams of other contestants, who now hug the startled Annie. On the floor, the crowd reacts with generous applause. Cooper freezes, understands the danger she is in. Alert, he looks about the roadhouse, determined to protect. Cooper remembers the catwalk, his premonition. He looks up. Someone is standing in the shadows overhead. Windom Earle. Cooper climbs up to the catwalk, hurls himself atop it. He draws his gun, looks ahead. Windom Earle stands at the other end, grinning from ear to ear, as the pandemonium continues below.
Windom, don't move.
Cooper takes careful steps along the catwalk, gun aimed at Earle's chest, looking out for traps and deadly surprises. Oddly, Earle says nothing, merely grins, a ghoulish apparition positioned in the far shadows.
Dear heart, you are, if nothing else, consistent. As you have no doubt realized, our little game of four-dimensional chess has concluded. And once again, dear dim Dale, you have left your queen unprotected. Forgive me, I amuse myself. You see, 20 years ago I made a promise, and tonight I keep it in the Black Lodge. Farewell, I must be going.
Earle holds up his arms to conduct an invisible orchestra. Then he slashes downward, and suddenly the lights go out. Muted sounds of little explosives going off. Smoke bombs. A colored strobe light begins flashing, exposing in pulsations the growing pall of smoke. A siren then starts wailing through the room. Screams erupt in concordance. People are now scurrying about in panic. On the catwalk, Cooper races forward, lights flashing, smoke obscuring, only to find that Windom Earle is gone. On stage, pandemonium. The girls huddle in fright. A sandbag falls from above, lands on Nadine's head. More pandemonium, screams. Close on Annie, her own acute fear. Suddenly, she hears a voice in the dark.
Don't be afraid. Let me help you.
A hand reaches out to her. Annie takes it, tentative. Once in its grasp, Annie is jerked forward, face to face with her captor, Windom Earle. Annie tries to scream. Earle whips her away into the dark. Cooper leaps down from the catwalk, now searching for Annie as well as his nemesis.
Annie!
Suddenly, the siren stops. Chaos everywhere. Cooper fights his way through the crowd, eyes searching. Annie is nowhere in sight. Truman hurries over. Cooper stares out into the darkness, hopeless. The strobe dies. Smoke is clearing.
Everyone's okay.
He took Annie. He took Annie.
I'll get everybody on it. Bastard won't get a half mile from here.
Truman moves off purposefully. Cooper continues staring out ahead. Andy arrives at wit's end.
Agent Cooper, I've been looking all over for you.
Andy, they're going to need you outside.
This is important. That cave painting in the office, I finally figured it out.
What's that?
I knew I'd seen it someplace before. I know where it's telling us to go. It's not a puzzle at all. It's a map.
Galvanized, Cooper stares at the unlined, boundless face of Andy Brennan.
You know, we don't really ever get a Cooper Windom showdown. We kind of do, but we're in the Black Lodge, and it doesn't really, they don't really get the scene. And this could have been it, but it was cut. The Windom Earle, the actor who played Windom Earle, so he's not aware of this ever being shot.
I like how it played out. I don't think I would have liked them having a conversation. That seems odd. I mean, I get that he likes to string Cooper along, you know, and play with him. We've seen him do that. I don't know. I don't know if you would take the opportunity to kill him here, but just to go and have this conversation.
Fool, you sprung my trap!
Yeah, right. Farewell, I must be going.
We also talked to Tim Hunter, who directed this, Tim Hunter. And if you remember, Brian, Tim Hunter didn't remember directing this either.
No.
I mean, it was almost 30 years ago. So, he didn't recall actually this happening. So this could have been something where Mark Frost or Harley Payton could have said, "Hey, we definitely don't have time for this," and just scrapped it before the director even got it. I mean, we have a few more minutes. I'd love to, because this is pretty much the episode, the 2 episodes, but there's so much still to talk about because you guys just had a trip. Do you guys want to talk about your trip that you had?
I'd love to. I'm still processing it.
Yeah, I'll see if I can remember it as more than a single day. Because it all just ran together. It was so fast. It was pretty astounding. The first day that we were there, as soon as we were able, once we were settled in, the first thing we did was go to Tweet's Cafe. And as soon as you step in the door, it's just, yep, this is the place. It was overwhelming how surreal it was to be there and to just sit down in a booth. Well, first of all, we were greeted by the owners who kind of knew who we were when we came in the door. Because we'd been messaging saying, hey, do you mind if we come in and talk to you guys? And I think we must have just had that look on our face of people who were here for a purpose, and they could probably tell from everything about us that we were podcasters.
Three of us.
Rolling in deep and just looking around going, wow. I think was kind of the giveaway.
Yeah, but anyone who's gone there knows, like, just that first moment, and you get, they ask you if you want coffee. It's just like, yes,
of course I want coffee.
Not gonna say no, right? It's like Dave got cherry. I think had the cherry pie.
I did. We got to sit down and have a short conversation with Rachel Bennett, one of the owners, while we were sitting in the booth, just asking us about our itinerary, what we're going to be doing, and how we planned to come back later to actually get to record there, which was an experience all by itself, which ended up being nothing like what we had planned and so much better.
Right. That's kind of how things like that work too. But this was one of those things that I joked with these guys about like 6 months ago, when we were starting our recordings of The Return. I was like, you know what? It'd be really fun, if we did our finale in the Double R, like our last episode of covering the Return of the Double R, like Dave and Tyler, like ha ha. Like,
I'm not kidding.
But then got vaccinated. There were cheap flights. This all happened within the last month, a little over a month. Everything about it was super quick. The Tweeds thing was the first thing we worked out. We were going to do something there. We talked to Mary Reber, owner of the Palmer House, to record. We recorded our part 18 episode there in the living room.
Wow.
And then we recorded part 17 at the Kiana Lodge, where the pilot was shot. So we recorded and filmed that inside where it looks like the Great Northern, which all of this, being in the Palmer House, getting stories from Mary about the return, just such an unforgettable experience. Everyone was so kind. Everyone from Tweeds to Mary to the Kiana Lodge management. It couldn't have worked out any better. Still can't believe it happened. And I can't wait for everyone to hear these episodes later this year.
That's awesome.
I know. I'm excited to watch. That's going to be awesome.
And I'm so jealous. I mean, Brian and I went to the Twin Peaks Festival in 2017, but we never got to the lodge where Laura Palmer washed up on the beach. And I saw some pictures. It's like, oh, you guys got to go there, because it's not near. I mean, it's a little ways out.
It was a long time. Our book made it. It was kind of cool. Like, people brought our book.
Right. Some people got some pictures for us and things.
Yeah, but next time when we go, we did get to record a show of ours. In the
Roadhouse there,
Roadhouse.
where the exterior was shot. Yeah,
that's great.
Nice.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. There's so many. It's great that there's so many locations that you can visit, all in such a small area. But we still didn't get to every little thing. I mean, we were so pressed for time. We did stop by the sheriff's station. But the door, we couldn't go in. The doors were locked. Yeah, that was the bummer. So we
had just showed up. We hadn't made any calls or any contact.
Yeah. And then the other just really cool location was going to see Jack Rabbit's Palace, even though it's kind of deteriorating, which is super sad. It doesn't look as full or lush as it's presented 6 years ago when it was filmed. Probably.
Wow. That stump is probably halfway gone.
Yeah.
From the time it was filmed to when we got there. It's still
Jack
recognizable as the spot,
Yeah,
but it's just
Jack
wild
Rabbit's lost a lot of weight.
yeah, it's wild how much nature has taken over there.
We got tips from Jeremiah Beaver, Take the Ring, for, because he has that really great 3 Days in Twin Peaks video, and we got some tips from him about kind of where to go. And when we got to this parking lot, which is actually right near the Deer Meadow Sheriff Station from Fire Walk With Me, really, like, I don't know, you just barely get into this entrance into the woods, and it's right there. Like it's you don't go far into this entrance. I was surprised. I thought we were gonna have to do just sort of a little hike, but it was right there. And then
someone's house.
Going to that, it was Olali State Park, right? That was the name of the
Olali State Park.
Yeah, that was just very cool. It was perfect too that morning. It was just a little overcast because it rained later that afternoon, which was surprisingly the only day we had sort of rough weather. But yeah, it was just the most amazing trip. It was so much fun to see all of that in person.
So the
super
falls.
Grateful. Oh, and the falls.
I think the falls were. I could have just stood there and looked at that for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that Puget Sound?
Yeah,
right outside of
the Snoqualmie Falls. Yeah,
right outside of the what was shot as the exterior of the Great Northern.
I always thought that was funny too, that it was Salish Lodge and Kiana Lodge, that there's two lodges.
Yeah.
Like for the real names. Just thought that was pretty funny.
You don't really understand the impact of a 600-foot waterfall until you're standing on an overlook looking at it. It doesn't translate to film or pictures. You have to be there and see it and hear it to just realize nature could destroy us all without blinking.
Yeah. So you guys have this podcast, and then you have your Patreon. I want to hear about the Patreon and the benefits into supporting your podcast.
Sure.
I was going to say, like, again, Tyler, one of the first things, because we sort of decided to delay a few months before we dove into the return. We just had a lot of stuff going on personally, still like middle of the pandemic. But Tyler had this great idea where he was going to paint like 4 or 5 gold shovels and put like our little we call it the Barkhouse Boys logo, based off of Bobby and Mike barking, with the microphone instead of the sword, like on it's a mini golden shovel, I should say. So we did like a limited thing where only 4 people could get that, and people signed up for it, and we were like, wow, this is weird.
It was half wow and half really.
Yeah, like, though it's awesome, but just shocking because it just surprised me that it always surprised me that anyone listens and that anyone cares, and that was really cool. And I don't even know when the video podcast idea came, but it was just everything kind of unraveled where it was just, well, we could put out a lot of content and just, figure out a way to just sort of, especially help Tyler, fund some of his gear.
Yeah.
Because we're certainly not trying to make a penny off of it. Just, we're doing it for fun, and anyone who decides to put any hard-earned money is A-okay in my book. And I'm still shocked anytime someone signs up. So
yeah, definitely very humbled and surprised always at the willingness and gratitude of anybody who signs up for the Patreon stuff. We kind of did it just to see if there was any interest to start with. So the short promotion with the golden shovels was kind of the test run. We do personalized letters, patches, stickers, video versions of the episodes. We have a couple of bonus episodes on there. We did a Halloween special that's just for patrons. We do every now and then, not dissimilar from your unseen actors. We do our own fan fiction theater, where I'll punch up a script for alternate possibilities and scenes, and
great.
Myself or others in the cast will, or even guests that are on, will read some of those roles, and those are a lot of fun. We're always trying to come up with new, interesting things to do for anybody who's interested for them, and we've got some exclusive photos on there too that nobody else gets to see. Just always trying to come up with ways to thank patrons for, like Patrick said, giving hard-earned money to this thing that we do for fun, and all the money that we make goes towards making more things for everyone else. Like we don't pocket it. We use it to make things happen that will be cool for patrons.
The other big thing was our live streams, because people could see Tyler watching episodes for the first time. That was
in real time. Yeah,
in real time. Awesome. that was a fun thing, and I think we're definitely going to continue doing that because the only Lynch movie Tyler's seen is Dune, so he's got plenty to see for the first time.
I don't think it's the best Lynch film, so I mean, there's a lot.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Eraserhead would be amazing.
Oh,
can't wait.
Yeah,
I
wait to dive into that.
Definitely want to do an Eraserhead coverage.
And there's a
Nothing
few you haven't
beats
seen
seeing
too.
you guys on video and stuff like that. And I already think your comedy is so great and how you guys bounce off each other. But to actually see your looks and how you react to each other, you don't get that with audio podcasts. So to be able to see the video and see how you guys respond to each other just by the looks and stuff is so great. And I imagine you guys have tiers. Like if you give such amount, you get this. Do you guys want to say anything about that?
Yeah, so for $5 get you a letter from us, personalized letter, which Tyler, again, this is Tyler. He types it. He types it up. He's got
on a typewriter.
Yeah, we got Talking Backwards stamp. You get some stickers. You get access to the live streams, and that's a very, very easy way to support the show. $10 gets you that early access to episodes, which I think gets you about 3 episodes ahead of schedule or so. And that's almost like a month and a half, 2 months in advance before they even come out. And that also gets you the video podcasts. You can get all of that and more for $15. That's the Barkhouse Boys that gets you the patch. That gets you everything else. And then we also have, I believe, for $20, you get a Jameser Zone mug. Jameser Zone was something that spawned from the Fire Walk With Me episode. This actually came from our live stream we did for Fire Walk With Me. One of the comments said something about, it was right when James pulls up in front of Laura's house, and then it just hit me. I said, highway to the Jameser Zone. And we did a little parody, Kenny Loggins parody, like kind of Weird Al style, highway to the Jameser Zone. So we have a Top Gun style logo with Jameser Zone. If you want that on a mug, you can get that and also get access to everything else that we offer.
James's forehead in lieu of the star.
Oh,
right. Yes, that's in the logo. We got some more stuff we're trying to cook up merch-wise just to offer a couple of different things. Luckily, I have a buddy who's very good at Photoshop. So he helps us out quite a bit. Joey Watson, shout out to him.
Well, this has been great. It's great to have you on. Do you want to plug and say how can people follow you? And and how often does the podcast come out? I don't even know. Is it weekly or it's every few weeks or?
It's bi-weekly. We started that this year with the return just to kind of give some room and also just to let it breathe. We're not in a rush either. Right. Return's been out for so long. We wanted to let that breathe a little bit and give us time to kind of work on everything else that we have. So the episodes come out bi-weekly.
You can always reach out to us at talkingbackwardspod@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram at talkingbackwardspod.
You can find us on Twitter at talkingbackward. That was because there weren't enough characters that Twitter would allow me to do talking backwards. So we are talking backward.
And if you want to find all those rewards we talked about, that is patreon.com/talkingbackwards.
Also, we use Anchor for our hosts. So kind of our home base is anchor.fm/talkingbackwards. All the episodes are there, but we're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you podcast, we should be there.
You can also Google it.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having us. This has been great.
You guys have to keep it going. Our podcast is ending, so you guys.
I heard that's so sad.
Yeah, so I recommend everybody that has been listening to us move on to Talking Backwards podcast.
Oh, definitely,
they'll keep Twin Peaks alive.
Throw all that enthusiasm our way. We'll do what we can to hopefully satisfy some of that.
Yeah.
And thank you to the unseen players for your amazing performances. You guys constantly amaze me.
So, Ben, I just want to tell everybody out there, we sold out the book, which we thank everybody for purchasing that and supporting us this past year. We appreciate it. We were told by our publisher that he worked with something up with Amazon about a print on demand, which we were not expecting.
We thought we were done.
Don't know how it works. A person just prints a book magically when you order it. So
our understanding was that we put money up front, and that's how we were able to get print books, and and we had so much X amount, and was all we were going to do. We weren't going to put any more money up front. It was a limited run.
Yeah.
And then our Scott Ryan's like, I can do print on demand with Amazon, and we would get we would get less of the money. It would go a lot more to Amazon. But the positive thing about this, right, Brian, is that Amazon is around the world. And for people, before the shipping prices were so much more. I mean, it might have been more expensive than the book was and stuff.
It was.
People are like, it's too expensive to buy your book from another country. Now you have Amazon in your country, and you'll be able to get it for a much better price shipping-wise.
Yeah, so shipping-wise, it's print on demand, so the book can live on in physical form. So we thank Scott Ryan, our publisher, for allowing this book to continue to be sold, because there were folks out there who messaged me, I missed out. I should have bought it when I could, but I waited too long. So now that is happening. So thank you so much to BlueRoseMag.com, and you can get your copy there. And with that being said,
I wanted to say thank you so much for everybody who supported us with this. That in the last year we were able to put out this book, and you guys all bought it, and that means so much to us. That it's so cool that we were able to do this.
Right. Yeah. So thank you again. And also, next week, we're going to kick off our final 5 episodes of the podcast on May 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to do a video of Ultimate Lynch Madness. It's our final Lynch Madness episode. A video format of the podcast will be on YouTube and Facebook. It'll be streaming at 2 o'clock, so we can all watch it together. And there's going to be like a pre-show around 1:45, and it should be a good time. We're going to have JV Minton on. We're going to have Maya, John Thorne, Joe Bacco. We're all coming back for the final one. So join us May 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel or Facebook page. We'll be going live at 2. And with that being said, you can email us at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. Give us that like on Facebook. Subscribe to us on iTunes. 5-star review would be awesome. Or on Spotify, and we'll see you guys next week.
Shelly, I realize I haven't been paying the right kind of attention to you lately. But when I saw you kissing that old guy, something snapped. It's like I realized what I had or something, you know? And I just want you to know that I'm going to dedicate my time to that.
Sounds great, Bobby.
Okay. Let's try and get through the rest of this, and then we can discuss it together.
Okay. Yes, I believe there are so many beautiful things in the world that should be admired and be thankful for. For example, Detroit automakers reported a record year of sales for sports cars. Bobby?
What is it? No.
Well, for one thing, there isn't anything in the speech about ecology or forests.
You know, I don't know where I can squeeze it in. The speech is so damn tight as it is.
Bobby, it's supposed to be about that.